Do you have a soulmate or a handler? Today, I want to talk about common retrograde traps and astrology programming. Because as much as I love astrology, I recognize that it is still a program. It is a program because a lot of people came together and decided that they collectively believe in these systems. So when we have collective belief systems that are very strong about one thing, it creates energetic structures called pendulums. A pendulum is a concept discussed in the book Reality Transurfing by Vadim, Zeland. And it talks about how when more and more people believe in an idea of something or the pendulum itself, it gains a lot of momentum. And because we live on a planet of duality, momentum is always going to have a negative and a positive polarity. So if you are a believer in astrology, then you're probably connected to that pendulum. But sometimes when we're connected to certain pendulums, we can be thrown around by them because the pendulum can be so strong that it takes hold of us. And kind of like, I don't know, if we were on a swing that's already in motion, it's going to be hard to stop that swing. So we're just going to have to ride it out until that energy dissipates. But today I want to talk about the common retrograde traps that tend to happen around this time of year, especially relationship traps during Scorpio season. Because we're ending Scorpio season right now. We've only got a couple more days left, or a little less than a week, before we move into Sagittarius, which is all about our philosophies on life and our belief systems. But while we're in Scorpio, relationships can feel extra difficult, and Scorpio, since it is the ruler of the underworld, can bring up a lot of themes of power, secrecy, jealousy, control, revenge, and those are all part of the negative polarities of Scorpio. So any cracks that we've been ignoring in our relationships often come to light during Scorpio season. And they come to light so we get a chance to emotionally purge in preparation for the next fire season, which is about transformation, but it's also about springing forward into action, which is what Sagittarius is. And Sagittarius is the third fire sign of the zodiac. So Sagittarius is our higher minds and higher belief systems. So whatever you're learning now in Scorpio season is like an initiation for that next chapter, that next part of life. So what is a retrograde in astrology? Mercury retrograde, for example, usually gets a bad rap because people say Mercury retrogrades can cause glitches in technology, issues with your car, and it can also bring exes back into your life. Now, like I said, if you're already really sucked into this pendulum and you really believe in astrology, it also becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I'm going to use myself as an example. As somebody who, when I was first learning about astrology and law of attraction and processing trauma and getting sober and just all this stuff, just trying to figure out my place in the world and how this thing operates, I was reading a lot of beginner's information about astrology. And when you're kind of first getting into it, there can be a lot of articles that pop up in your feed or a lot of teachers that pop up on social media talking about kind of like the basic information for astrology. Because when you're just learning, right, you're just learning little bits at a time. So it's not just going to throw all this really hardcore in-depth astrology knowledge on you until you've at least got the basics down. So the basics are like, you've got a natal chart, you've got a rising sign, you've got a sun sign, you've got a moon sign. But when you get into the natal chart, you also realize, oh, I have love planets. I have Venus and Mars, which can determine who I love, what I love, and how I love. And one of the things that's commonly talked about with astrologists is Mercury retrograde. Everybody pretty much knows about it. So a retrograde in astrology is when the planet appears to be moving backwards in the sky. So symbolically, it's moving backwards in our chart. which means it's covering ground that it has already covered in the past. So we're coming back to something that we've already had one perspective on, but because we've jumped forward in a lot of the other signs and a lot of the new energy, so we've got new downloads, so to speak, from the other planets and their movements since the last cycle. When the planet comes back around and retrogrades, that means we've gained all this new knowledge, but now we get a chance to go back in time and apply new knowledge. So depending on how you look at relationships and retrogrades, could this be a good thing or could this be a bad thing? And I'm going to kind of explain both. So the traps of a Mercury retrograde cycle, especially if you have manipulative people in your life or secret society type people who know about angel numbers, so they specifically text you at 111 or 444. That's legit a thing that people do. I've seen memes about it and videos about it on social media. But when it comes to like secret societies and handlers and stuff, I made a whole video about how they may infiltrate your life during astrological portals or during big points, activation points in your personal chart. So is it that far-fetched to think that somebody familiar with the occult, with astrology, may say, oh, Alex really likes astrology and I need to impress her by showing her that I care about astrology too. Maybe now would be a good time to contact her around the retrograde. I don't know. I don't know if these people are like really going that far. I'm just saying it's not that far-fetched. But we can also do this to ourselves. So we can have preconceived ideas about what a retrograde means. And also not understand the lessons of the planets so much and be more enthralled by the idea of an ex coming back, that we're really not paying close attention to the cycles of what the retrograde is trying to teach us. So the trap of a retrograde is that it can bring back people from the past. But when you're asleep, when you're not aware of what you're supposed to be learning through these cycles, it can be really easy to fall into another handler dynamic, another trauma bond dynamic, another manipulative relationship dynamic. When you are awake and aware of the programming of astrology on the positive flip side, because like I said, it's a pendulum. There's bad things and lower polarities, and then there's good things and higher polarities. So the magical thing is that you get to choose. You get to choose what you take from it, what you extract from it. So if you don't want to believe in astrology, you don't have to. If you do want to believe in astrology, you can use it as an amazing tool and make it work for you. And you can apply the lessons of the planets to your own personal relationship and flip how you experience and see the relationships that you're in. So let's think of an example. Like an ex comes back from the past. Maybe I felt in my heart that we ended prematurely, but because it's holiday season and retrograde energy just might make me think about the past, now all of a sudden I find myself thinking of them. And since I don't understand the lesson necessarily of what that relationship was teaching me, because I may have been in my own trauma conditioning, meaning I was still in this victim mentality where I wasn't quite ready to sit down with myself and journal about my belief systems, or admit to myself that I'm the common denominator in the relationship, that I'm the gatekeeper of all my relationships, that I played a role in the relationship too. Maybe because of my own trauma conditioning, that relationship ended, and because I couldn't deal with the shock of it or the pain of it, I went straight out to the bar the next day and I got drunk and I met somebody and we immediately hit it off. And then I started up a new relationship with them, which helped me leave my last relationship. But now I'm in a new relationship and it's been about a couple weeks and now there's red flags everywhere. And I'm realizing that I'm in another trauma bond or handler type dynamic with another narcissist. So again, who's the common denominator here? And what were the choices that I had available? I could have gone for instant gratification by not dealing with the pain of that breakup, and I could have gone and got my mind off of it and gone and mingled with somebody new. Or, you know, and in that moment I would have had fun because I met somebody new and I forgot about the pain I was trying to not experience by losing my ex. But my other choice was that I could have said, okay, what was this relationship trying to teach me? Why does this hurt so bad right now? Why was I looking for another person to fill the void for me? Why can't I give myself what I expected them to give me? Why do these people keep failing to give me what I want? Why don't I ever get what I want in relationships? Is it because I'm not giving myself what I need? Does it stem back further, even deeper than my last partner? Does it have more to do with my mother-father dynamics and early childhood trauma that I've just been ignoring, and I've been entering into relationship expecting another person to fix me rather than really getting to the bottom of my trauma? Now, if I had chosen the second path, it may have been difficult. It absolutely would have been some level of difficult because I got out of my comfort zone, which is the only place growth occurs, by the way, real growth. But I got out of my comfort zone, so it was hard. But some time passes, I'm presented with another opportunity and meet somebody else who's a vibrational match to what I just experienced in my last partnership. But this time I have the tools and the self-awareness to say, I don't want to participate in those dynamics right now. So I build a little confidence because I blocked somebody, or because I said no to a trauma bond or handler dynamic. So now I'm building confidence. So at the end of the day, holding off on instant gratification really was in my best interest, but it's still going to take time. Still going to take time to unlearn all of these trauma, all of this trauma conditioning that I've been acting and operating out of since I was young, probably. So how might this look in a Mercury retrograde? Again, like I said, partners tend to come back during a retrograde. And in the first example, I was just kind of going through the emotions, and I had, put Band-Aid over a bullet wound, as they say, and I've taken the easy way out, and I'm still unhappy because I just can't always, there's not always going to be enough people or distractions there to really fill the hole of emptiness inside of me. So at some point, my emotions are going to catch up with me. But what do you know? Retrograde season is here. And before I have a chance to sit with my feelings, boom, my ex calls me. Now, because it's been a couple months since we talked, I remember the good times. And I don't really remember so much of the bad times, even though they were really difficult when we first broke up. Enough time has passed that, I might be ready to let bygones be bygones. Because I've been lonely. I felt the sting of those emotional and lonely nights. So I'm thinking, let's give this thing another go. Well, congratulations, you fell into the honeypot and the trap of the retrograde. But it's not all lost. Nothing is in vain. Nothing is wasted in God's economy. It's one of my favorite quotes. So even if you do find yourself in this kind of dynamic where you took an ex back during a retrograde when you might have been vulnerable, you still can learn something from it. And as I was saying, astrology is such a great tool to help us learn, especially right now. So today, as I'm making this video, it is November 15th. We are halfway through the month of November. So more than 2/3 of the way through Scorpio season. And Scorpio season is Pluto. It's the underworld. It's death and rebirth, transformation, and it's the time to do shadow work and emotional purging. So this is, like I said, the ideal time for relationships to come up and act as a mirror for us to see what we need to work on, what we need to change within ourselves to make our ride from here on out be smoother. Because right after we have Scorpio season, we have Sagittarius, which is climbing up the mountain, getting ready for Capricorn, which is when you are, it's the highest point of your chart. It's called the midheaven. It's your purpose here on earth. It is your mission, what you came here to do. So we're not going to be able to really step into our responsibility and our purpose and our mission if we've got little peons holding us back and these little handlers distracting us from our purpose. Now, I have talked about the handler dynamic in many of my videos. And when I say handler, it can mean a literal handler from MK Ultra or Monarch, but I mostly mean it in a sense that handlers, grooming tactics, narcissists, these are all unconscious programs that anyone can operate on. Even us, when we're not fully in our power, we can act as a handler for somebody else. And the lesson can be a lesson that they're learning at the same time that we are. And we have signed up to be karmic partners for each other in this go around. And that's why we feel that initial really strong attraction. That's why we call them our soulmate, because in a way they are our soulmate. They've decided to let us hate them in this lifetime so they could help us grow and ultimately reach a higher purpose that's ultimately going to bring us more fulfillment. And again, I'll just use myself as an example, as somebody who was chronically in relationships, who chronically fell for these kind of retrograde traps with narcissists and manipulative types of people. I have been consciously taking a break from relationships over the last year. It's been about a year since I've been single and off of everything, like literally just me, myself, and I. Boundaries extremely strong. And what do you know? My YouTube channel finally takes off. And if I keep going at this route, I should be able to be well on board to affording to open my sanctuary, which is my lifelong goal, to have a plot of land, to be able to rescue dogs, to be able to let them run around on lands like this, whether that's in Arizona or some other state, I don't know. But the point is that because I took a break from trauma bonding for a while and I saw through the programming, astrology was a great tool to help me see through that programming and help me process the lessons I was learning. But because I was able to take a break, now all of that energy that was being siphoned from sensual activity, from sacral chakra harvesting or energy harvesting, because we create energetic cords with anyone that we sleep with, and demonic entities feed on those attachments, especially when they cause pain and trauma. So they feed on trauma bonds. That's how entities are able to operate in this world and have an effect on us, because they're surviving on our loosh, on our negative emotional loosh, which is created from these trauma bond relationships. And the best way to create that energy is to get two people who are very attracted to each other, but have an explosive dynamic where, you know, a lot of that attraction is based on the fact that they have such strong wounding that mirrors each other, that they are drawn to each other like a moth to a flame, because their soul is crying out for healing. But like I said, on a spiritual level, they really are our soulmates, because I personally believe, after reading a couple books called Many Lives, Many Masters, and another one called Journey of Souls, I believe in reincarnation. I believe that we write out a lot of what we want to experience in this life. I think that there's a lot of different options for what we can experience. I think we can, we have free will to decide what story, like what's our story going to be. So like I've said this so many times, you can have one experience happen to you, and you can either decide right then and there that this is how the world is, this is something negative, this is how it's always going to be, and then you will start to create that reality and start to be a vibrational match to those experiences. Or you can decide right there, maybe this happened for a reason. Maybe I'm supposed to be a survivor. Maybe my story is here to help other people's story. Maybe if this had never happened, I would have never met so-and-so and so-and-so. And maybe I never would have had the resources to open my sanctuary. I mean, when I think about my own gang stalking experience and my relationship experiences and my trauma bond experiences, I'm like thankful that they happened at the end of the day, because they made me stronger. And the time that I've taken away from relationships has honestly been my best. And my biggest fear ever was being alone. Like when people told me years ago that the best thing I could do for myself is take a year off relationships, I laughed at them and thought, well, maybe for you, but I'm so attractive. I'm like attracting all these people. I can't help that I'm so attractive. I'm mostly joking, but I think when you are young and you're in that scene and you're just out there having fun, it can feel like there's a lot of options. You got all the time in the world, and you know, get lost in the fun of it. But at the end of the day, it really does something to your soul. It takes a part from your heart and your soul every time you get lost in that trauma bond with somebody else. So for me, it absolutely did take a toll after a while, and I needed that break, and I'm so glad I took it, even though probably took it a couple years after my mentors had suggested that I do it. But the important thing is that they planted that seed for me, and once that seed was planted and once I applied it, I was like, wow, like they were right. I've had all of my energy to channel into my YouTube page, my Patreon page, and where I do cosplay and fun alien characters. I've been able to channel my energy into readings, into offerings, like a course that I made, the moon calendars I come out with every month, being on other people's podcasts. Oh my God, so many cool things. Not to mention that now that my channel is finally getting steady growth, should be able to start working on really getting boots on the ground, starting a sanctuary, which again was my end goal in all of this. And how cool would that be to be filming videos from a farm where there's a bunch of dogs running around in the background, like my favorite hero, Lee Asher. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. How do you know if you, what about you? What is your soulmate relationship keeping you from? Is the comfort that you may feel, even though that comfort may come with a lot of pain, is it worth what you're giving up? So for me, would I give up my dream of owning land and saving dogs to be in a relationship just because we have great chemistry? At this point in my life, heck no. I've experienced true peace outside of that programming, and it is lovely, let me tell you. Anyways, is there anything else to discuss? I feel like this is such a big topic. What about other retrograde traps? Mercury retrograde is the main one. Like, people associate that with exes. But I do also want to say that if you're watching this video now, which is November 15th of 2025, we also have we have 4 other planets in retrograde as well, and the nodes as well, the nodes of fate and destiny. I'm going to turn around, but the planets that we have in retrograde that might be making these storylines and these timelines of inviting exes back from the past for that final trauma bond rendezvous, that final energy is the Uranus and Taurus at 29 degrees, an aneretic degree point, a crisis degree point, and Neptune, so beautiful, Monarch butterfly, and Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees, another aneretic degree. So Uranus, the planet of shocking change and development and technology and the future and the higher mind and electricity energy, which just brings, changes out of nowhere. It can also be disruptive. So if things were going fine for a while, you may have ignored some patterns or cycles in your relationship, but all of a sudden Uranus comes back into Taurus when it was in Gemini, which is a little more friendly. Then it goes back into Taurus at 29 degrees, and you're like, boom, we just had this gigantic fight out of nowhere. What happened? Are we going to break up? What is this trying to teach me? But that energy could be coming to get you on a redirected path get you on a new path. So whether or not you get back with the partner after that, it's up to you. It's not always about, am I supposed to break up with them? Am I not supposed to? Are we supposed to be together? Are we not supposed to be together? What did you learn about it? How did it redirect you? Because at the end of the day, remember, you get to write the story. So what story do you want to tell yourself? I mean, if you want, you can tell yourself, you can get lost in fairyland and ignore all the red flags and say, oh, he loved me. He didn't mean to hit me because he loved me. You could do that and you could exist for a little while. But if you don't really truly believe that and you're operating from a trauma response, I know from experience, you can hide it and kind of act like the problem's not there. But when transits like this Uranus transit come back around, these are the times in astrology where we get that bump of energy where things that there was a small crack in before is going to burst wide open. So those things can be happening right now. And then we have Neptune in Pisces, and Neptune is the last sign of the zodiac. So it's closing out cycles and it's dissolving and it's teaching us how to surrender. So surrender is so important. And ultimately for me, that's what my relationships have taught me. At the end of the day, for me, I realized that the whole idea of needing the one and being programmed and conditioned to find the one, to be so uberly obsessed with a soulmate that it becomes my entire identity, that I shift my whole identity and personality to the guy that I'm dating, that I change all my profile pictures, that even when I'm single, I change my hair color and then I go do fake nails and fake eyelashes and a spray tan and hair extensions to attract another relationship just so I can trauma bond with them again. Like all of this for me was programming, and for a lot of people is programming. And how do you know it's, a healthy relationship versus a soul trap or a handler, narcissist, trauma bond relationship? Well, the fact that you're asking should be enough of an indication for you. And that's a tough pill to swallow. But if you're even asking that question, that's a really good sign that your intuition is picking up on something. And you may not be ready to deal with it and tackle it today. And that's okay. Because there will be a time when you'll be strong enough to walk away if you need to, or to separate if you need to. I know for me, codependency was a big part of my life. And I had one boyfriend that had a really bad temper, and I didn't want to rock the boat with him. And it was very much one of those dynamics where it was like, I'm going to do that to you, but oh my God, baby, I love you. I'm so sorry. You're the most beautiful thing. Oh, I can't believe I did that to you. Oh my God, I love you so much. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I don't know what happened. And then I fell for the crocodile tears just for things to go the same way. And for that to happen, 2 months later. So I'm saying these narcissistic groomers and handlers are very talented with their crocodile tears at times. And again, ultimately it comes down to us and what we're ready to admit to ourselves and what kind of work we're willing to do. So for me, when I was in that example, I just hadn't had enough yet. I guess I didn't have enough abuse, and it wasn't as bad. It wasn't bad enough for me to really wake up and take action until it was. And then when it was, I was like, dang, wish I had left sooner. But how it looked for me, after a couple domestic violence incidents from my partner at the time, after that first one happened, I tried to break up with him, but then, comes back to the flowers and like the kind words. And also me, I don't want to be alone. I can't accept the reality of this partner that I love, that I've been with for, we've been best friends for 3 years, and he like put his hands on me. What? Like, did he ever love me? Like all the can of worms and the questions that can open up is so hard to deal with. And I could not deal with it, but I was starting to. And that's the important thing. Like, remember, everything is a journey, just little cracks, little peels of the onion getting unpeeled at a time. So, after that first incident, it was like, okay, I did the first move. I broke up with him. Yeah, I did get back with him, but I got back with him in a way where I was practicing new boundaries. So I may not have been 100% gung-ho ready to jump ship because I wasn't strong enough, but I was strong enough to make some changes that I hadn't implemented last time. So those changes were enough to really start to get that ball in motion and that cycle in motion, and to start to build confidence in myself, which I severely lacked. So I started to spend more time alone. I started to repeat positive affirmations to myself and remind myself, I'm strong, I don't need him. If I want to walk away, I can. You know, I got used to reaching out to other people and not isolating myself with one person. So I started going to AA meetings and expanding my circle of friends and influence, which also helped me unravel myself from the codependent domestic violence relationship that I was in. And ultimately, what ended up making me leave was a fated event. It was a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, I believe. I think it might have been in the year 2020. But out of nowhere, we were having like 2 really good weeks. And then out of nowhere, it was like, he wasn't even there. Like something went off in him. It was like a demon altar took over. And now when I look back on it, I'm like, this guy had some like serious trauma growing up. And it makes me wonder if he was legit part of one of these families. Family had money, like all the signs were there. But if you know, you know. If you've ever seen a person in psychosis and it's like something shifts in their eyes, like it's not even human. I'm like, is this guy a reptilian? I don't know. But I saw that persona take over, and then he darted at me and tried to attack me and tackle me to the ground and was trying to pull my hair out, and then I was protecting my neck so he wouldn't choke me to death. And then I got out of there, thank God, but I'll never forget thinking in that moment, he just had a giant knife in his hand. Is he going to go grab it? Is he going to kill me? Is he going to try to choke me? Like, I have to lay here protecting my neck, because if I move my hands from my neck, this guy's literally going to try to strangle me. So I prayed in that moment, like, God, please, please save my life. And he got up, and then I ran like a bat out of hell out of his house, called the police. They didn't do anything. They just asked, am I safe? Do you want to suppress charges? And I was like, well, my stuff's still there. Like, I don't know. If I like press charges, it's going to be worse. So it was a really bad experience. Ultimately, I think I went back for myself, like with a parent or friend or something. And also I started domestic violence support groups for women. And I heard women who had stories that were even worse than mine, which was like, God dang it, Alex, you are so lucky that you didn't stay an extra year for this guy to get so comfortable abusing you that next time it's going to be sending you to the ER, which, by the way, 5 years later, his girlfriend was like 20 years younger than him. And then he ended up, I got a call from her like 6 months ago that he sent her to the ER. So it's just crazy that these abusers literally never changed. That guy never ended up in jail or getting consequences from it. So all that's left is this story for me to tell you as a cautionary tale. Hopefully somebody learned something from it. And hopefully it can be an example for somebody like who's struggling with this kind of relationship, which may very well be coming to a head at this time with these anaretic degree points and these astrology portals that are going on. The 29th degrees of Neptune, it's dissolving karmic bonds. We're learning karmic lessons. And then Uranus is like shocking change. And Uranus and Taurus is changes in where we live and what we own. So there could be house changes. There could be, changes in your material belongings because of this. But it all roots back to the emotional, start of all this. Like what makes us the kind of person, the kind of gatekeeper to attract these people in the first place. So it all comes back to the Scorpio polarity of Taurus, which is why astrology is so important to learn, because you start to learn about how to navigate these relationships through the energetic lens. So what about what I said in the beginning, though, about pendulums and how astrology is true because a lot of people believe in it? Well, we've talked about, I've had some people mention Vedic astrology on my channel, and then some people mention Ophiuchus, I forget how to say it, the new 13th astrology sign. And I've even myself looked at my Vedic chart, not in depth at all, but just to get an idea. And I'm like, well, I'm still a Libra sun, but the early degrees of Libra. And some of it is interesting because some of it resonated, but I'm so attached to my idea of Western astrology and the progressed charts and the transiting planets and how that affects us. I'm not limited to my natal chart personality, but I kind of probably am limited to this idea I mean, not limited, because I am open-minded. I'd love to learn more about Vedic astrology. I'm just like, right now, feel like what I'm doing now is working for me. So unless something doesn't work, I'm usually not inspired to learn something new, because I got a lot of things that I'm doing with my time these days. So I'm very particular about what I'm watching, what I'm learning, because I don't have a ton of free time. So I have to be particular about it so I can do all these other things that I need to be doing, or that I want to be doing. So anyways, Western astrology works for me, but that's not to say that Vedic astrology or the 13th sign system might not work for you. And it might be something that you absolutely love and fall in love with and really resonate with. And maybe part of your purpose as somebody who's passionate about this stuff could be to be a teacher of it, because maybe not a lot of people know about it. And maybe your excitement in learning something new could be that excitement that puts you to the top of the line to say, hey, I want to start speaking about this and I want to start teaching people about it. And then that's how new pendulums are formed in society. That's how new ideas are spread, is by your initial passion and your belief in an idea that you get so excited about that you share with other people. And then they believe that it can work for them too, because you're a living, breathing example of it. And then you can do a lot of good in the world by following your passion. And of course, there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be, the trolls on the channel that are like, it doesn't work, it's a psyop. And well, you're not necessarily wrong. It could be a psyop, but that doesn't mean that just because another group tried to make something a psyop and turn it into something negative, that it has to be negative for you. You can always extract the beauty, the positives of anything that life throws at us. I've become such a strong believer in that. And I'm really thankful that I've had that attitude too. I don't know if I'm naturally born like that, or if just life hardened me a lot of times, that at one point I just woke up and was like, I'm tired of being hardened by this stuff, and I'm just gonna write myself a happier story about it. So anyways, all of this to say, I hope you learned something about astrology and relationships from this video, and maybe enough about how to recognize if you are in a relationship, at least enough to make you think of your current relationship dynamics and whether or not you're choosing partners based on your trauma conditioning, or if you're choosing partners based on a deep soul love. So final tidbit information: how do you know if you're really with somebody who is good for you? Do they make you a better person? Not just through trauma, because you're learning stuff together and you're becoming a better person because you had a really hard experience that made you better. I mean, that's one way to learn and grow. But they make you a better person as in you're not tossing and turning at night wondering if they're cheating on you. You're not doing psychic readings every week to ask something outside of you, is my partner going to leave me or not? You're not doing magic spells on them to try to get them to stay. Anytime you're trying to control a relationship or predict whether or not they're going to be in your life, it's very much a sign that there's something lacking within, which is what is making you focus so much on something outside of you. Because what you're really trying to do is fill the void within. You're really trying to find stability and security where you can never find it. You'll never find it. You'll have moments, fleeting moments, where you might feel safe and secure, but it's never going to be sustainable. The only security and safety that is sustainable is your higher self, your God, the universe, Jesus Christ, whatever you want to call it. It can look different for different people, but it's found within. And if you can't do anything at all but start right here, which is where you admit to yourself that there might be a problem, something might be wrong, you might be powerless over the trauma in your life. If there's one place to start, it can be to sit with yourself and try meditating. So some people might need to start with a guided meditation or a tool like a mala bead, which can be so helpful. But a guided meditation to just remind you that peace is within, it's not outside. And oftentimes when we shift the inside, when we start to get, become the anchor for ourselves, it's contagious. So oftentimes the partner that we're trying to leave and the relationship we've been trying to dissect, when we get back to center, a lot of those relationship problems tend to magically disappear. A lot of times why we have these toxic relationship dynamics is because humans are so empathic, and we don't even like recognize it or talk about it that much in society, but we're so empathic. That's why people always feel like we're walking around on eggshells in a relationship. That's why, you know, men are afraid. You know, they think that a woman just has to give them a look and they already can jump to conclusions about what she's about to say. And these are miserable ways to exist. I just can't even bring myself to watch shows like Love Island or Love is Blind, because it's like these people are so deeply engraved in their trauma conditioning, and the media is normalizing this stuff, making it look normal. Well, everybody has these relationship problems. Everybody cheats, everybody blah, blah, blah. But no, it's not true. Just because everybody's doing it doesn't mean it's healthy or normal. It just means that enough people are watching TV and they're being conditioned by this stuff, and they're ignoring themselves, and they're not doing the inner work to ask questions or break out of this trauma conditioning on their own. But once you open that can of worms, once you start to sit with yourself and do some of this work, then you'll start to see how much of it is a trap and a program. And again, if you really want to talk about relationship programming, it goes far back as Monarch programming and the Disney movies that we grew up on, trying to condition us with this idea that we need somebody else to complete us, that there is the one perfect partner out there for us, and we need them because we're not complete on our own. And we got to kiss a lot of frogs before you can find the prince. Does that sound familiar? The Swan Princess. You got to rub a lamp so the genie will come out and grant your wish, because you're not a manifester, because you got to give your power away to a demon or a djinn. You can't just manifest something on your own, because they're not going to teach us that, right? Beauty and the Beast, falling in love with that ugly beast because he's going to be a handsome prince one day, right? Right? Does this sound familiar? Seriously, does this sound familiar? How many relationships have you put up with? How much crap have you put up with because you think that they're going to turn into your prince one day? Can you start to draw the correlation between this Monarch programming, this Disney programming, this media programming, this Love Island programming, this Love is Blind programming? And can you start to see that this is a deliberate agenda to try to trap your consciousness in lower states of consciousness to feed the negative loosh on the planet? But love is the most positive form of loosh. And love is the cheat code for the matrix. Love and awareness can help us break free from these cycles and these patterns. So I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you feel empowered to look into what you need to do to stop attracting these groomers and these narcissists and these handlers. It all starts with you. And I have tools for you in my description. I do one-on-one readings if you want to really get deep into your astrology chart and understand the patterns and the cycles that you're learning. I also have a fear inventory belief exploration worksheet plus a 21-day habit tracker for free. It's listed as pay what you can. So yes, of course, please tip me and pay for it if you can. I appreciate it. I have to make a living, and it will go to funding my sanctuary once I'm ready to look at land. But right now it's helping me get by and continue to do this so I can do my longer goal. And I appreciate every view, every like, every share, every comment. And those tools are for free though, if you need them. So absolutely take advantage of that too. And last but not least, I have a moon calendar. So I know we're halfway through the month, but what better time to start than today? Understand how the moon cycles are interacting with your personal astrology chart. What are these cycles teaching you? Where is it activating your personal chart? What lessons are you learning? And how can you start learning how to be more in flow with the natural universe versus all these synthetic matrix programs? So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in the next one.